Hello, this is IndieGoGo Chat. I am with comic historian now, right?
Who, me?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah, you can call me comic historian.
comic book historian
Comic.
Randy Zimmerman.
I am the Gandalf of comics. There we are.
And Randy, a couple of things I want to chat with you about today. A couple things that popped up in the industry, uh, on other websites. I had run across. I actually read it first. Why
But
don't you explain to
before
everybody
we
who you are?
before we get into the major questions, is there anybody else
Mhm.
listening? I just heard a bing.
Yeah.
Maybe it was my timer. No. Is there anybody else
Let's see.
listening?
My computer could be. My screen is frozen right now, so I'm just
Oh,
sitting here
I
watching.
still see you waving your head. Get that bobblehead working.
Let's see.
Can I crank up a timer?
Let's see here.
It is your time. You're not frozen here. Well, now you're frozen. You ain't moving.
I hear my screen is just frozen. It'll unfreeze after a while.
You might have to jump over to your Indie Volt sign. Let's see if this works. I am Flint Comics. There we go. I can shut my camera on and off. I got a nice blue light on there to tell me it's on too. That's cool.
And my computer's been doing this a lot lately. I think it's just because I have so many things open, so many windows.
Shut your windows. No, don't shut your windows. Yeah. I had to open a different Internet Explorer in order to get to you. I have a Internet Edge and Internet Explorer. I have to turn Explorer on, which is the old ancient technology, in order to get it to work.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever works.
For some reason only wants to let you run a Windows Internet Explorer.
Well, hey, if it works, I'm not going to complain. I figured it out. So we're here. We're now. Let's let's talk the talk. But you don't have a counter to say if anybody's listening. There's no chat or nothing. Are you there? Hello, Cisco. Are you there?
Who's all watching? All right.
You might have. I couldn't hear a word you said. All I see, your face is frozen. Also. Are you there? Testing. There you are.
Yeah.
Now you're moving.
Okay.
You close the right window? You close the right window.
Yeah.
I can
closing all of them.
I don't think I've got anything else on, so I should be good. There's a little control board here. Control room. Green screen share. Oh, cool. What does that do? Oh, I can grab screens of absolutely nothing. That's all good. Okay. I need to throw something else up there, I guess. Maybe if I pop this up and screen share. Does that work? No, it does not. Got a lot of Microsoft Edge stuff. Anyway, I probably shouldn't be dinking with this if you're on the air. Are we live?
Yep, we are.
All right. Well, is there anybody there? Do you have any way of knowing if anybody's there? I see a chat. I see a chat open here. I should type something.
Yep.
It comes up as me. Am I there?
Yep.
We need to tell other people we're here.
I'll post a link on my Facebook.
Let's see what happens. I can post a link on my Facebook too. I'll just jump it over to the other internet here. I'll copy that. Let's see if that works. Copy that. Live. Oh. On the YouTube. with Indie Volts. This is how I type, man. It's all hunt and peck for me. If we get anybody. I have now on the YouTube with Indie Volts, Varian Grant. Join us if you dare. Plant that link. Pasted it. It's pasted. Now I have shared. Nope, I have not shared. I am now shared. Poink. It's thinking. There it goes. All right, let's see if we get anybody. Mike DeSantis wrote me. Hello, Randy. Sorry, but I won't be able to make the show. The next Flint show. I didn't realize it's the same weekend as Gem City. Of course it is. God bless me.
Good old Gem City.
I moved
bad old Gem City.
Everybody's going to Gem City. So I'm throwing a show. I got to find some more comic dealers for my April show, my June show, probably my September show, because my September show is opposite the Silly Monroe Con. So, one of these days I will do a convention where I'm not up against 15 other freaking local conventions, you know. The Saginaw one's clear so far, so maybe we'll have a big one up there. That room is expansive. That's a huge room. It's on the second floor though, but I need comic dealers really bad.
You need like vendors, comic
comic vendors. I got artists. Artists are asking for tables all the time, but man, I need comic vendors really bad.
I'll talk with some of the vendors around here. How much are your vendor spots? Just
$50 a table. $50 a table. 8-foot table. Yeah.
8 foot. Okay. All right.
Yep. And I have space right now for at least 3 or 4 really good comic vendors. Rick and Bill aren't coming. They're the dollar guys. I got Amazing coming at least, and Comics Relief is coming. Okay. They're setting up. I'm not sure about Ralph. I got to talk to Ralph Griffith yet. He usually sets up with some comics, but now that DeSantis has pulled out, James Russell will be there selling comics. I might bring a bunch of comics just to sell them for $1, just to see if we can, sell some comics for $1, I guess. Nobody here yet. We can just talk. We can just talk, and you can post.
Yeah. So I have a question for you.
Sure.
You've seen, I don't know if you've seen it. I'm pretty sure you have. Dan Didio from the Comics Pro Talk. More news is coming out of that.
That pro thing? Yeah.
And
they don't invite me to those things.
No.
I wish they would have, because I'd have stood up and called Didio out when he said that. That's infuriating.
Let's talk about what he said. That's what he said.
Yeah, quote it.
I'll paraphrase it. He said that the DC cutting back their number of issues they're going to put out,
right,
is not related to low sales, but a lack of talent in the comic book pool.
And DC pays the highest for all of the talent. We're a very competitive price, and we just can't find people to work on these books.
Now, is that I mean, obviously you have,
and that was the wife dropping something upstairs.
See, she heard it and she couldn't believe it. She dropped
that must be it. No, she's up there probably doing the dishes, actually.
What did you think about when you read that was something he said?
I laughed. What else can you do, man? It's the most hilarious thing. Can you still see me?
Yes.
Because I'm bouncing around on Twitter right now. Because I wanted to read you a quote. Do you see the Neal Adams quote?
No.
That Peter Simeti was talking to him about.
No, I didn't see that.
Oh, hey, give me a second. Here it is. Okay. Nope. Neal Adams says he's called around. He can't find anybody who's not getting work because of their political views. I was pretty thorough, and I could be wrong, but I just can't find it. I hope all in our business do well. Love you all. And Mike S. Miller responded right underneath that, said, didn't call me. But Samedi and Neal Adams, have been talking back and forth all day because Neal Adams said, and to paraphrase him, he said, I've heard out there that people aren't getting work because of their political views. I certainly do hope that is not happening. And it's like, well, dude, you know, you've been asleep for the last 6 months. Where have you been? You know?
Is that your Neal Adams voice?
No, wait a minute. I can do it. Especially now that I've got the croup in the back of my throat. I've heard that people out there are not getting work because of their political views. I certainly hope this is not the case. That's pretty close. Oh, plus, hey, that ear isn't drawn right. You got to put stuff inside that ear.
Did you?
I can be mean to Neal because Neal's mean to everybody else. You know.
Yeah, he almost kept Frank. Was it Frank Miller out the industry? Was it?
Who? What?
Was it Frank that Neal almost kept out the industry? Was it Frank Miller?
There's been stories about people keeping people out of the industry for decades, man. It's all one big sewing circle with a bunch of gossiping old women. They just go, I've got the job. Who wants the job? You know, there's been rumors and I'm grapevine BS that's not worth repeating.
Well, no, I think that Frank took his portfolio to Neal, and Neal was like, this is the worst I've seen.
Oh, dude. Have I told you my Neal Adams story?
No.
I was at a New York show one time, and I listened. I stood next to Neal. I wanted to get his autograph. This was before he charged $8 to sign anything. I wanted to get his autograph because I appreciated him, you know, and he's outstanding, you know, and he's got the reputation in comics. I'd never talked to him before, and I have a sketchbook that I have all sorts of different autographs in the front and back cover on. And I wanted Neal on there. So I took my sketchbook up to him to have him sign it. And I listened to him literally rip a guy into tears over his portfolio. And I mean, he wasn't just critiqued. This man was in tears. I felt sorry for the guy. He was streaming down his cheek, and he was done. He was out of the business, man.
Wow.
And Neal tore him apart over the littlest stuff. You know, like I said, you call this an ear? This isn't an ear. An ear's got all sorts of stuff inside of it. And then not more than 2 or 3 hours later, somebody was showing me a sketch that they had in their sketchbook by Neal Adams of Green Lantern. Because, you know, Neal did Green Lantern, Green Arrow there during that big run with Denny O'Neil. And he just did a loop for an ear, you know, in the con sketch. And I sat there and I looked at it and just shook my head going, you know, what a hypocrite. But, you know, we all have our off days, and I realize I'm live, and now I've probably made an enemy of Neal Adams, so it's all good. Just the truth, just what I see, and just saw this guy was literally done. You know, he was out of the business.
Wow.
He just kind of walked out in shame. At that same show, too, I was sitting back to back because we were in, you know, little donuts there at the show, and I was there in Artist Alley. I had Lee Falk to the back of me. It's the guy who created Mandrake the Magician and the Phantom. Never turned around and said hi. One of the biggest regrets I ever had. This guy, I was in awe of his talent too, and I never said I was too much of a geek boy to turn around and just tap him on the shoulder and go, Mr. Falk, I really appreciate your stuff. I mean, I grew up reading Mandrake the Magician and in the Detroit Free Press, and, you know. I felt bad about not knowing him because he wasn't around more than 6 months after that he had passed. So
really,
yeah.
Now, when we kind of
that was the same show. I had a buddy who had a sketchbook. I dragged him over to this young kid who just started working for DC. Told him to get a sketch by him. This crazy Quesada dude was starting to draw the Ray. I said, you need a sketch by this guy. He's good. Young kid went behind the guy who did Ray, because he really impressed me with his art, because at one time he was very stylized in the way that he drew. I mean, you could tell if you look at the first Ray miniseries that Quesada did, it was very good, very unique.
We kind of glanced over it, but I mean, going back to the
sorry,
that's okay. The Didio said, "Is it?"
I can digress.
That's okay.
But anyway, back to Didio. Yeah. That, his boss should have quietly called him over and said, "Dude, you know, that's nice to tell the retailers that you're incompetent, but can you just stand up there and say, hey, I can't find nobody to do my books. I'm so sorry. We just don't have the talent." It's like, what the hell is that?
Do you believe that? Is that, I mean, like, obviously you don't believe it, but like,
it's another example, and this is also going to get me in trouble when you see what you're starting. This is another example of reality and comics. They're like, and I'm looking at my camera to make sure that my hands are still in focus. Comics are over here. Reality is over here. Comics as a business is way over here. Reality is way over here. There's people out there that are begging to do comics, that would do comics for next to free, that have talent. It's just that you've got such a knitting circle, such a group of gossiping, you know, they just sit on their throne. They don't go out. When's the last time DC did a convention? You know, when's the last time anybody actually said, "Hi, we're DC, we're doing a talent search"? Do you remember when the last time that happened?
I think DC tried to do a talent search. The last I think they did, it was 2017, but it was like internet based. It was, I forget how it worked.
Oh, but because they wanted to get the guys from Mexico and the Philippines because they can pay them less.
Oh, yeah.
Heck, right now there's probably enough people in Venezuela that are begging to do comics that they could do a company just like that and pay them next to nothing. They don't have any electricity down there right now. You know, all you got to do is call up Dave Campetti from Glasshouse Graphics. He's an agent for all of these guys over in foreign lands. He takes a small percentage, and these guys have big fortunes living off of the pennies that Marvel and DC actually pay people for starting wages.
I'm making my move to the Philippines myself.
Well, yeah, there's guys out there that'll do this work. There's guys in Italy that'll work for next to nothing that are incredible artists. You just got to go out there and find them. The big problem is Didio's excuse, and that's what it is. It was an incredibly lame excuse, and he should have been called on it right there. I mean, there's enough retailers out there who know what's happening. And Hibbs and Berger and all of this that were there that could have just stood up and said, "Dan, that's BS. That's just total BS." Because you don't go out and look for nobody. When's the last time you went out there and looked for somebody? Oh, you had an online search. Oh, that's nice. You know,
it's also kind of troubling how he said, "Don't share the what's going on in the business with your customers."
Well, you know, you got guys out here on YouTube that are pulling down 100,000 subscribers because they're talking about the business, and they're not being let into the business. You know, why isn't your boy Zach an editor? They don't want him there. Why don't they want him there? Because he actually knows what makes up a good comic. And he, the other people up there think he's some bigot because he did a dark roast way back when where he said some stuff he wasn't supposed to say. You know, this guy, you listen to his, well, he just did a comparison yesterday or today on Avengers Annual. I think it was number 10, the golden Chris Claremont written book where they talk about Carol Danvers, and he compared it to a modern Captain Marvel that just come out on the stands. It's night and day, and all of his points, everyone all the way down the line, were completely valid points that they ought to set a Marvel editor down in front of that video and go, "Listen to this guy. This guy loves comics. He knows what's happening in comics. Take all of this criticism to heart because there's some hardcore truth there." And they just don't want to listen to him. He's like, "Oh, he called somebody a so-and-so way back when he was drunk or you know, that he knew he in a conversation he never thought would ever get out on the internet. So thus he's all of his points are invalid.
If there was no talent, I mean, you simply have to walk to Artist Alley at the comic conventions. You think that video is maybe out of touch? do you think?
Yeah, man, you're gonna make me cough, son. Dude, that's a silly question. You know he's out of touch. He's just like a politician. He's sitting up there in his high castle, and he's looking down at the lower folks, going, "Oh, work for it. Sign my shoe."
So you think he believes that? He believes the statement of this?
No, I think he's making an excuse. I think he knows better. He knows how the market works. He just doesn't care. He's out there right now. Him and Lee and Bob Harris are desperately trying to save their job. They fired everybody underneath them that they can possibly fire. They're the 3 top guys on the totem pole responsible. That's where the buck stops. And now they took out all their little intermediaries that they can go, well, I fired this guy. The art director there, he didn't know what he was doing, so we got rid of him. So they're not getting rid of the guy on Vertigo, Curry, who just went out last week and said some inane, crazy, stupid stuff. That they're not getting rid of that guy. That's the first guy they needed to let go. Look, we saw your Vertigo numbers. You can't sell comics. Why are you here? Go. That should have been. That's logic. That's over here. That's logic business. This is comic business. It doesn't involve logic. It involves nepotism and knowing who and what to kiss and when.
Now, as the mainstream,
how's that for really getting me into trouble?
Yeah, there
we go.
That's all the bridges you burned.
They just went up again. That's all right. Axel Alonso's no longer at Marvel. So, although I was surprised to find out that I think his wife is still up there.
Really?
So it's Victoria Alonso. I just saw a quickie interview with her. So it's now, anyway.
While mainstream comics are suffering, indie comics seem to be doing pretty good.
Default. They're getting sales by default. It's the same thing with the Comicsgate guys. You got people out there who love comics, like me, like you, and even folks that aren't even trying to do comics, that are madly in love with comics. They grew up with comics, just like Richard Meyer grew up with comics, or comics kept him sane. Myers studied comics the whole time he was in the military. When he wasn't out there on active duty, he was reading comics. That's all he did. He studied. He read comics. Comics kept him in a mentally sane place. Growing up, that's all I did when I wasn't going to school or having to deal with the parents or the crazy religion, is I was reading comics. Comics kept me sane. I read comics. I studied comics because I read them and was entertained by them. And I sat there and just dissected comics. I got a copy of Giant Size XMen 1 around here that's literally in shreds because I love Dave Cockrum's art. And I sat there and looked at every panel and redrew the cover 3 or 4 times, and or copied the cover back when I was at 77, back when I was in high school still. There's a group of us out there that are comics. I mean, it flows through your blood, and once you print one, you just don't get out of the business. These people are out there begging to be used. I mean, so when's the last time you saw John Ostrander with anything? Chuck Dixon has to start his own company in order to print stuff for him to write. And
that like you just said about comics, I remember, and someone else said it much more elegantly than I could, but they learn morality from comics.
Oh yeah, and all your whole political belief system come out. If it wasn't for Stan Lee, a lot of us guys would never have grown up remotely progressive.
Yeah.
I'm going to put this on mute for a second because I have to cough.
All right. Cough break.
I think.
You're muted. Randy's taking a coughing break. Kind of sounds like a coffee break, but coughing. Is that coughing? Coughing?
Yeah, I got some croup up in the back of my throat, so. Normally I'm not quite this gruff of sounding of a curmudgeon, huh? Those comic people, they all suck. They don't know their stuff. CC Beck, when he left when he left Shazam, and I ran across this again, but it was old information for me. And he left Shazam. He was bitching that they couldn't give him a decent script. They wouldn't give him a script that he could save. You know, used to, whenever I got a lousy script from somebody, I could draw my way out of it. But these scripts are so bad, I'm not even going to try. I'm done. I'm out of here. And here's the guy who just got done doing Fat Man, the human flying saucer. You know, and he was getting Shazam scripts that were driving him up the wall.
Mm-hmm. Now, when there are old guys who are out there looking for work.
Dude, there's enough to fill DC and Marvel out of these old guys and out of these guys that have been shoved out of the business because of they don't fit the nepotistic needs of the editors that are up there now. You know, that these guys get Bill Loebs. This is a great example. Bill Loebs could write a monthly book, no problem.
Now, you mentioned that the
John Ostrander. You know, these guys live right in my backyard. There's enough people here in Michigan to do a freaking comic book company of guys that have just been walked over and shoved aside.
Do you think that we'll get another company out of this? Another Image out of everything that's going on now?
No, I think you're going to see these comic guys just constantly making hardcore money. And the money that they're making is from all these disgruntled guys who hate the mainstream stuff that's coming out now because most of it's unreadable.
Well, you know, and it's not just Comicsgate. I mean, I've seen some other comics. Brian Polito just put out his Lady Death Kickstarter.
Yeah, but there's a lot of guys out there that are Kickstartering, and the why Polito's using Kickstarters beyond me, unless they're really giving him a sweetheart deal. Because Ethan said that the other day that you can save yourself a couple of percentage points by jumping from Kickstarter to IndieGoGo.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, with percentage points aside, though, they, you know, like. And
how that gatekeeper over at Kickstarter keeps accepting Polito's stuff because it's old style 80s misogynistic work.
Well,
how come she lets that continue? Just, you know, baffles my mind, unless they know how much money they're always getting from a Polito project.
Oh yeah, I mean that's got it. I mean the projects without our borders.
When has money ever stopped these people before from gatekeeping? You know, that's why the Comicsgate stuff's going on now.
Now, if with comics being the way they are, and we now have indie comics making, you know, I mean, I think I've seen some books. I forget the name of the book, but somebody just launched a Kickstarter a couple days ago. They're already up to $8 grand. This is good for indie comics. Me being an indie publisher, I'm excited about it.
Well, yeah, but that's why we all now have our YouTube channels, and we're all trying to build up an audience of people who actually know who we are. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of us have been, well, you and I are great examples. We've been sitting around here in our own little universes and doing our own stuff, and nobody out there knows exactly who we are. There's going to come a way that we can start marketing, and YouTube seems to be that, out to the people who used to be really heavy mainstream buyers. And that's the people that Comicsgate are hooking into. The people that are buying Cyberfrog are the people that remember Ethan back when he was doing Green Lantern the first time, or when he did Cyberfrog for the first time, and got out of the comics, got out of buying mainstream comics because they sucked. And now Ethan's up there going, they hear, oh, the guy who used to do Cyberfrog is going to do Cyberfrog again. Where can I find that? Oh, it's on IndieGoGo. Well, I'll jump up on IndieGoGo. Well, you know, he needs $25. Okay, there you go. That's where he's getting his money. He's not getting money out of the mainstream. The mainstream's like this big, unless he's got retailers out there that are willing to invest in his stuff. You know, which there might be some retailers out there that get it. I think a good, couple thousand of Ethan's money are from haters who have to see the product.
Now retailers are in trouble too. I think
retailers have always been in trouble. Retailers have always been in trouble because they have always been treated as the lowest rung of the ladder. And they are on the front lines. They are the guys that should be treated the best outside of the creative, you know, some of the creative talent people that actually have proven themselves to be salesmen. I'm going to do this as a video here when I can get far enough down on my list for Zim Geek. But the direct market, when it first started up, it is an amazing genesis of this should work, that should work. And the independent guys were really the guys that were banging into the direct market. Bud Plant was printing First Kingdom. Dave Sim was thinking about printing Cerebus. You had all these guys that were trying to start up. Half of these guys you don't even hear about anymore because they got out. I like the Pennies is a good example. We're doing ElfQuest and all this. And then there's the whole retail shops sprung up. And then Marvel and DC said, oh, well, maybe we can make money there. And the first 3 books I remember distinctly, the Marvel was making a big deal about that were direct market only. Kazar, Moon Knight, Shanna the She-Devil. They found the absolute the books, if you go back and look at them, were horrible. They were hurriedly written, hurriedly drawn. They were just, well, we don't have to do a lot for it. We're not going to have to accept returns on them. Here we go. You know, they were trash. And that's how much respect Marvel and DC has ever had when it comes to the direct market. It's just a way for them to drain money. And that's why Marvel is doing what they're doing now, and why DDO is like going, well, I guess we just can't find any talent out there. We're going to have to cut our books back. Because they just don't have any respect at all for them retailers.
They were down to 1,500 stores in the country.
Are they? Is that a definite?
Yeah.
Because they were at 19 2 years ago. And
you know what's funny is that one of my businesses.
When did they say they were at 1,500? Because a lot of people have figured that 1,500s they're done.
I'm sorry, not 1,500. I'm sorry. I think we're down to 1,900. I'm sorry. 1,500 is that's supposed to be it. 1,500.
Yeah, the cutoff time, the time that they figure the retail market's not going to be feasible anymore.
I have
1,500 stores.
I have a book here that I got when I printed this off. It cost me close to $30 to print this off, and it is every comic book store in the United States of America.
From when?
From 2015.
Okay.
This was a list.
How many names do you have on that?
I don't know, but I can tell you that, I mean, you can look at these pages and see that's that's a pretty thick book.
You bought the list in 2015?
No, I actually I found a little, I guess it was a loophole in how comic book store locator was set up. Where you could just click it and it would show you a list of all the stores rather than putting in every zip code.
So that was their list.
Yeah. And it was the comic store locator list, and I printed them all off. And I mean, that's easily, I'm gonna say 200-300 pages. And I've never gone through that book because I intended to call stores and see if they would, carry my book. And I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty sure most of the stores are gone. I probably cut that book in half.
Probably. Yeah.
Most of the stores are gone. But do you think that the future or the future continuation of comic book stores, do you think that indies can save them? And just before you answer that, Eric is going to join us. Eric Hodson is going to join us in a little bit here to send him an invite.
Cool. You think he's coming?
Yeah, I'm sending him an invite right now.
All right. So nobody else has joined in the chat.
Yeah, no one loves us yet. You're gonna say something real controversial.
Like I haven't already? Holy crap.
Yeah, you.
And Neil, I'm sure I'm gonna get hate mail from Neal Adams. Was that an actual thing from Neal Adams' XMen book you sent me today?
Yeah.
Or was that somebody went through and redid the lettering on that?
Did they?
I would imagine so, because even back then, I don't think the term camel jockey would have been acceptable.
I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to look into it a little bit and see if I can find it, because it definitely. Now I have a X-Men book where Wolverine is a recall book. Wolverine called Sabretooth, the magic K word, and
there's a magic K word. Oh. Yeah. Meaning a slanderous term for Jewish?
Yes.
Or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And Wolverine calls Sabretooth that, and the book went out to print, and I got a copy of it, And I remember it was very early internet. Like, well, not early internet, but it was like, gosh, I can't remember what year it was. But
well, even 30 years ago, that would have been a derogatory term.
Yeah, and they took it and they pulled the book and reprinted it. But
wow.
I have this copy of Wolverine calling Sabretooth with the K word.
Well, comics have always relied back on old style stereotypes, and I'm sure there's a lot of mistakes and a lot of outdated thinking as you go along in those books. That's just going to happen, the old back in the old days, in the golden age, national periodical banned the word flick, F-L-I-C-K. Did you know that?
No.
Did you hear that story? You could absolutely never use that in a comic because the L and the I, once it's printed, could blend together.
Yeah.
That's what they were worried about.
And
that's how rustic the old printing used to be. I bet you can flick all the time now. Interesting bit of trivia.
That was one of the things about Pac-Man. The Pac-Man game. It was originally called Puck-Man, and they didn't want to call it Puck-Man here because they were afraid that people would scratch out the middle of the P and turn it to an F.
Too many immature Beavises out there. Yeah, heck yeah. They would do that too. A little piece of electrical tape right in the right place. I could see that. I could see that happening. Wouldn't surprise me.
Just finished up a con myself. I was at Wizard World Cleveland over the weekend. Had a really good time. A couple of interesting things came out of that show. I didn't make it to the.
You make it to the party?
I didn't make it to the meeting.
Oh, I was gonna say, dude, free alcohol, dude. Oh, no, you gotta make them parties.
Yeah, we went to the party. I went to the after party, and you had mentioned that after parties were pretty dangerous to go to, and you got a bunch of comic book geeks together.
Free booze
and
socially closeted artists. You probably some pretty decent looking females. There's gonna be some harassment. It's gonna happen. Just the way it works. Couple drinks, bring out the real, the real artist, the real socialite in these hermits that sit, behind a board all day. It's gonna get wacky.
From what I understand, there was very little harassment. However, it was a great time. I hope Wizard keeps doing it because it really was kind of cool to hang out with everybody afterwards.
Yeah, because free booze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Free beer. And it had been so long since I had actually had beer that it was weird because you drink one beer and you start feeling buzz. You're like, whoa! And I realized it had been probably about 2 years since I actually had a beer. So,
wow.
Yeah.
You need to get out more.
Yeah.
It's been a while for beer too. I'm a rum and coke guy now. So.
Now, with you mentioned that Indie Comics are going to have a what do we got here? So I'm getting a message. Let's see here. Looks like
I just asked if that bacon be raw.
Yeah, I seen that. I seen that.
Somebody sent me a girl fight today in a gas station where the girls had bats.
Oh, was that? Yeah, I think I've seen that one.
Yeah, I responded to that with that bacon be raw, and with a capital R as in WWE Raw.
And what people don't know that the bacon be raw is that Randy recently stayed at a hotel, and for breakfast that morning,
it was at a con. I was at a con. It was a breakfast, continental breakfast at a con.
And
I smelled the bacon as soon as I stepped out of my room, but it's by the time I got to the kitchen, there was a lady there that wouldn't stop saying that bacon be raw. So I didn't have any bacon that day.
She was just trying to warn you, let you know that bacon is
over and over again. She wanted everybody to know. Everybody.
Bless her heart. Bless her.
She just had the concerns of all of us in mind. That's all. You just have to love people that are looking out for everybody else.
I'm sending Eric another invite.
He's saying that grumpy dude's still in there that is talking to you. I ain't coming in.
No. Yeah.
I don't want to talk when Randy's on.
He'll pop in. He's using the app on his phone because.
Oh, good. There's the challenge.
Right, yeah, so that could be one of the issues he's having.
We're streaming live on the YouTubes.
Yeah.
Right now, we've Varian Grant from Indie Volt and Randy Zimmerman from who knows where. Flint Comics. Welcome to the lead water. Yes, sir.
Now, how was the water situation up there in Flint? Is it better now, or
No.
I hear Jaden Smith is coming through with some technologies to.
Jaden's got a filter,
yeah.
just like Elon. Elon wants to come in and help, and the state doesn't want to help because the state doesn't want to admit that we still have problems, even though there's still those emails that's out there going, what's a few extra lead points to the people in Flint? At least the kids have free health care.
Well, see,
all of them that were exposed.
And that's the weird thing to me.
It's just taken them forever to get the lines changed. And I got an ad coming from Flint Comics for the back page by the biggest compassion club in the city.
Mm-hmm.
Because and wonderful client that's coming on board for issue 100 for Flint Comics. I do a paper that's advertiser supported, just in case there's somebody out there who doesn't know who we are. Who don't you know who I am? Anyway, I got a lady from a compassion club coming on, and she's taking the back page because ever since the lead line started to be replaced, they decided that the place to park all of the gravel, all of the industrial equipment, all of the pipes are right in front of her compassion club. And they've been rerouting people all over for blocks in the area, and everything's pretty destituted in that area to start with. She's in an old abandoned union hall, and she had taken it and had refurbished it and started back when Michigan allowed medical marijuana. And now all she does is shake her head. She asks the zoning people, when are they going to be done? When are they going to move stuff along? Maybe August. In the meantime, she's had mounds of dirt in the road, literally in the middle of we're talking huge mounds of dirt right in front of her club, forever. And she's been chasing on them because she used to be in construction, and she knows how far everybody's supposed to stay back, and they won't do it. They've been giving her such a hard time because they don't want her there because she deals in that evil marijuana,
Right.
Even though she's there legally and supplying people with medical help, pretty much. That's about what it is right now. She had to move. She had a huge grow operation there that she had to move, because you can't have the grow operation in with the clubs anymore, because the state wants to make it as difficult as possible for anybody to be a compassion club and for anybody to be a grower, especially at the same time. That's just not supposed to happen. So, but yeah, the situation here is that we have lead lined water pipes that they're supposed to replace, and they're taking their damn sweet time trying to get any of it done. In the meantime, you got guys out there that are pilfering the system. And, there was one contractor that was 6 months ahead, wondering where everybody else was, because they're 6 months behind, because if they can milk the system, that's what they're going to do.
And is there any, besides the free healthcare, is there any relief in sight, or is there any resistance to letting people come in and help?
Yeah, the state cut off their free water, And the big problem now, they've had an additive in the water for a few years that is supposed to adhere to the sides of the pipe so that there's no longer any lead problem in there. But the big problem is that covers the larger pipes real good, but from the service, from the main pipe service lines into the house, now is there's a possibility that chemical doesn't do everything that they want it to do, does a little, doesn't do it all. So you still got houses out there with a couple of thousand, lead points when they should be under 15. So, and just when the state cut off the water, everybody freaked, and some people stepped up and brought truckloads of water in. And the water dispersion sites are I think it's one is still open out of the 10 or 20 they used to have in the city.
Did you notice an uptick at all in like maybe editorials or ads in Flint Comics on the water crisis?
No, I wish I did. We picked on the water situation pretty heavy editorially. In fact, we dedicated a whole page to it when Dr. Atisha come out and did a bunch of editorial cartoons. Talked to Dane Walling, who was mayor at the time. All he did was push the button, but that was enough to cost him his entire political career, probably. He told me he thought it was funny. He still writes a community column for our paper, but it was just the disaster wasn't the fact that the lead got into the pipelines. The big disaster was the fact that these politicians higher up, the emergency managers and the governor especially, all went out of their way to hide this stuff and to keep anybody from thinking that there was any problem. In the meantime, we had 20 Legionnaire deaths, and there was all sorts of problems with the lead getting into, especially in the kids, which is just crazy. So now it's just one Flint, and the kids are all one big petri dish. They're going to cover their health care probably for the rest of their lives so that they can study the effects of high amounts of lead upon the human body. Hi, welcome to Flint, guinea pig capital of the country. That's pretty much what it is.
That's really a shame. That's really
it's inexcusable. It's totally inexcusable. And the big problem is the attorney general during the crisis decided he had to run for governor, and in order to keep his nomination rolling smoothly, he had to tone down a lot of the indictments. So now that the governor has shifted from the Republican that was there to the Republican that's there now, or to the Republican that was there to the Democrat that's there now, they're going back and revisiting all of those old cases because it's still within the statute of limitation, and they're going to tighten down on quite a few of them. I just wish they'd track the governor down because there's enough emails to go right back on him. Mm-hmm. And especially during the Legionnaire stuff that he said he never knew. And it would be good to see some high level justice, but instead the crazy emergency managers are taking the brunt of the litigation. The guys that the governor appointed to go in.
I always joke with my wife. Said the two questions you never want to get asked ever is what did you know and when did you know it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And these guys they just covered the whole thing up. They just brushed it off, especially the emergency managers and the governor's office. There wasn't a problem. Well, look, the water's brown. It's not a problem. Just run your pipes for a while. That's what they said. It's all the time, all that brown that was coming out through everybody's water. That was all the rust that used to be on the pipes that were keeping the lead from the lead pipes from soaking into the water. So just run your water. It'll clean them out really good.
That's really one of the things that I can't understand how it happened. And but your paper was there in a way to be kind of an advocate.
Oh, we tried to stay out of it for as long as we could. We've run a couple of things more about the water situation, but I didn't do Flint Comics to be political or to be an alternative paper, even though there's an X in the title. We originally were going to do that, but we turned into a family-friendly paper pretty quickly. So I've done my best to try to stay as politically neutral as possible. Mm-hmm. You still see an occasional editorial cartoon slip by that I think is really funny. And we've got a couple of contributors who do editorial style cartoons there. I print some stuff once in an extremely great while, whenever I have time to draw it up, to put it in there. But you know me, I tend to be a lot more cynical, and you get cynical, you get bitter. Bitter is not funny. Well, I like it when it's funny.
Sometimes bitter can be funny.
It has to be really uniquely funny. Yeah. Yeah, I let other people do that kind of stuff. And we got a Mark Corrigan. I always call him Mark. No, his name is Mark. I always switch it with Mike for some reason. There's a character that was Mike Corrigan. Mark Corrigan does Life in Flint comic strip. It's a little rustic in the art, but editorially he's pretty spot on. He says a lot of stuff that you couldn't normally say, you know, or you wouldn't normally say on Facebook without being barraged by people with assenting opinions. So it's all good.
And let me see here. I'm still trying to get Eric into the chat. He is having some issues.
Yeah, like I said, it's that crazy Gandalf dude that it's that old man. I don't want to be on there when the old man's on it.
You know, it's I think because he's using the app, he's not seeing my invitations. So I'm
gonna jump over and see if anybody's talking on my Facebook thing.
Okay.
They might not have even posted it. You know how Facebook has been lately with their algorithms. It's just been crappy. No, just, let's see. A drink. Scott Rosema, Eric Hodson also commented on Varian's post. Let me see here. Oh, no, Eric just responded 45 minutes ago to your post about burp loudly in the movie theater and 4 people turned around. Felt like I was on The Voice. Matt Fazell says, stop looking at Facebook and go fix dinner. Spent $6 trillion on the war on terror, whichever's out, political. Blah, blah, blah. So Disney's Plus is doing a What If Marvel series. There we go. That'll be wonderful. Let's really screw with everybody's head as far as the continuity goes. Flint City counts.
I think it'll work. That actually is pretty interesting.
What is pretty interesting?
The What If series.
Oh, yeah. Well, What If was always the best back when it was first out because people actually got to be creative. You know, they didn't have to stick with continuity. But let's see where I'm at here. There I am again. No, nobody's responding. The silly Facebook anymore subdues all these links, and I post songs from YouTube up there. Nobody sees them. So, yeah. There you have you run any of the I don't even remember the group name. The Come Along song. Did you ever play that on Indie Volt?
No. Indie Volt Radio, no.
You know the one I'm talking about?
No, you said it's the what song? Is it
the Come Along? They used it on a commercial once, and now the independent channel on Sirius runs it constantly now. It's in their top 20 rotation. Because those Sirius channels, they play the same 20 songs over and over and over again. Like you mentioned, you were on that Indie Volt was kind of on a rotation system.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's even worse on Sirius. It is. But they do kind of a whimsical song that's goofy. You'd recognize it if you've seen the commercial at all because it sticks in your head. So come along now. I ain't gonna sing it for you because I don't have the voice right now.
I wonder.
It's one guy from Austria or Holland or something who sits in front of this big bank of electronics and does the. I don't know if you remember Katie Turnstall when she did the video Black Horse and the Cherry Tree, where she sets up all the rhythmics for the song on computer and sits there and performs the song off of her guitar and herself while there's like 20 or other a whole ton of other rhythmic stuff going on around her. This guy's the same way. He'll sit there. His concert consists of a desk, bunch of electronic equipment, a laptop, and him sitting here hitting buttons, and then he's singing while he's got all this other stuff playing, and it sounds like he's backed up by a full orchestra. It's pretty crazy.
We talked about it when you were on the radio program with me.
I can probably rig this up off of YouTube if you don't think we'll get any kind of copyright strike.
I'm not sure. We might because we're live. They might take it down later or mute the video at one half.
Did they?
I do have one question for you though. Another question.
Ask away.
They was it today? Just popped up again. The IP the IP theft issue is becoming an issue again. This time from another source, where people are saying, you know what, stop drawing, Spider-Man, Batman. You're doing indie comics. You should be drawing your characters. You should be making prints of your characters.
Nobody's gonna frame your character unless they're really a big fan. You have to be big enough to gain big fans in order for that to happen. So people are still going to make prints, If they didn't do it, they do it like they do at Myers, or somebody would take a cover and scan it and then throw it on a block of wood, call it a plaque, and sell it for $10. It's going to happen regardless. It's just that when you're at the shows, you're getting hopefully somebody's unique artistic interpretation of it. If not, then they're ripping off somebody else's unique artistic interpretation of it. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I'm just wondering if, with everything that's going on, I just wonder if, some people don't understand that when I first started, I refused to draw any character that wasn't mine. And then I realized that I was going to these Comic Cons and I wasn't making money. And you start noticing that Spider-Man and Batman and these characters start paying the bills.
Well, if they're paying your bills, you probably have a problem.
Yeah,
That carpet's going to get yanked really quick because you're literally catering to the flavor of the month.
Yeah. But by bills, they were at least getting me table back and the whole.
It's not even your flavor. You know what I'm saying? It's just print. But that I felt that way about IP properties anyway. We've had that discussion. That's why I've never done it. Somebody walks up and wants me to draw on a sketch cover. Yeah, I'll do it. $50, $100 or whatever. But as far as making up prints, that's just that's more than what I want to do.
Now, do you think that you got a lot of characters? I'm not sure that you have any of the Tales from the Heroic Tales books left, or is that it? Did I buy the last one?
The who what?
Heroic Tales Volume 1. Is it 1?
Yeah. There's only one. Yeah, there was only 150 of those. So
really?
Yeah.
No plans to go back and re-release it?
Oh, I would love to do another version of it, but I won't release that one again, not without going through and correcting all the damn spelling and punctuation errors. Because that's pretty disastrous. All of those notes are just all I've sat there and gone over it with a red pen, and it's bad. It's really bad. It's not just there's a mistake here on this page, and 2 pages later there's a mistake. There's like a mistake every sentence. Because I sat there and typed it out real fast, and then I realized, I'm not really that perfect of a typer. Especially I go back through and try to catch my mistakes now on Facebook. It gets pretty crazy because I'll catch extra keys or who knows what else. These old fat fingers just do their best, but they don't do a lot.
That was an interesting book, though. In fact, that was
that's why I put it together. Then Diamond wouldn't even touch it because they said that they didn't want they didn't read it. They didn't go through and go, well, you got all these spelling errors and all your punctuation errors suck on here. They just said, well, the retailers want superheroes in color. You did it in black and white, so we're not gonna carry it. But they carried the War of the Worlds collection. We did a War of the Worlds collection that Scott Roseman did a cover on that I was really happy with. Nice red book, real solid product. I have none of those. We printed, I think it was 600 of those, and Diamond come back with another reorder for another 300, and we told them no, that we weren't going to do it because they didn't take the Zim's Heroic Tale book.
That book, that was the first book. I bought that book when I met you.
Yeah.
Back in 2010 almost.
A lot of those stories. I won't say all of them. There's a lot of those stories in there that still hold up real well.
Yeah,
the Fool and Unforgiven are still very viable characters. New Breed with a little bit of tinkering could be a really good series still.
And I got to tell everybody a funny story about the Fool. So
Pardon?
I'm sitting at Randy's table at a Comic-Con, and I'm not set up at this show. I'm just, I'm at his table, and Randy brings boxes of comics. They're normally books that he put out through his.
It's a half box with oddball, crazy stuff in it. Yeah,
and this guy comes up, and he doesn't seem like an average comic book fan, but I think he said he was trying to get into comics or trying to.
Yeah.
And so, he wisely chose to come over to Randy's table and pick up some indie books. Now, the thing was, he's going through the books and he's pulling out. I started noticing this guy is pulling out a lot of books. He doesn't pull out 2. He's well over 10 by the time I took notice of it.
Yeah, he probably had 15, 20 books. And he was done.
But he reaches up and he pulls out the Fool #1.
Mm-hmm.
And Randy does this noticeable cringe and wince. It physically hurt you to see you pull that book out.
Well, that's one of the last ones. That's all. That's the Fool and the Unforgiven books were all done with a company called Mythic Comics up in Canada, and that guy was just shystered me really hard as far as not sending me extra copies and sending me any type of a royalty check. So, though he boasted that Unforgiven was his biggest selling title at the time, and he had Paul Miotti's brother working there doing a wrestling book at the time that I think we really outsold, but he didn't prove it by sending me a royalty check at all. I was supposed to get 50% of the profits on that. And he never sent it. So he never got Unforgiven #2. He got the first 2 issues of The Fool, but he didn't get another one. I stopped working for him when he wouldn't send me any money.
You're not getting any more. But I really think you ought to re-release Zim's Heroic Tales, and even just to put it on IndieGoGo.
Dude, I got enough to do a second volume of all stuff that I've been sitting on for decades. Literally, decades. I got Abdul. If you know who Abdul Rashid is, I've got an Abdul Rashid story nobody has seen about a character. I was going to call her Stray. It's a female test tube, genetically altered warrior type character who can shoot chains out of the palms of her hand. We were going to call her, I was going to call her Allison, and the book would have been called Alice in Chains. But the artwork is real solid and the story is real solid. The dialogue on it is really good. I got more stuff like that. I got a whole nother issue of a New Breed and a whole nother issue of The Fool that we can print that wasn't in the Zim's Heroic Tales book.
Now, do you still have all the original artwork for The Fool?
Yeah, I think I do. Yeah, but I've got good enough copies from it that, I probably wouldn't have to use the originals.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to Chris Tyson, the guy who did the artwork on that, but he sure was gifted. I hope he went on to do other stuff. And again, to go back to those DDO, that DDO stuff, man, that he said, the statement that he did about there not being enough talent in the market, that they've chased off 5 times more talent than what they will ever use out of the business because of nepotism, people that just didn't want to give somebody else work because they weren't somebody else's brother or whatever. And these guys have all ran off. The people that wanted to make money all went off into advertising or video games or commercial artwork or wherever they had to go in order to make money because they were tired of banging their head against the wall, just like what I was, with these editors who you realize they're not there because they know what they're doing. You know, they're there because somebody's brother or whatever. It was even Stan Lee's first part was all nepotism. He was the nephew of Martin Goodman, and he threw him into the closet back in the 50s and told him to coordinate the comics, you know, just to give him something to do especially after the war. But and comics have always been like that. You've got a group of buddies that go out there. That's why these old cons used to be so important, because you'd go out there and rub elbows with these people. I was never that political. That's why, you know, nobody's ever heard of me. Well, you know, just the people that bought my stuff.
I remember the wise
or the bridges that I've burned. Anyway.
There's the wise information that I got was from a gentleman that likes to be known as the 30, and he introduced me to you, and he said, you know, if you listen to no one else, listen to Randy. And I was like, okay, because I didn't listen to him at all. And and so I remember picking up Heroic Tales, and I think I recall it.
He said, man, look at all them spelling errors and punctuation mistakes. I'm supposed to listen to this guy?
I don't think I read it like the first week that I kept on. Like the second week, though, I cracked the book open and I'm reading it, and I couldn't put it down. And it, you know, and you break the book up. There's, you know, pages of text where you talk about, you know.
It was my I had done it originally as my portfolio card, because these were all properties that I wasn't going to be able to print, that I just wanted to do. If I ever had the opportunity to do it, I'd still sit there and figure out how to get it done. They were all properties that I had written. That one was a superhero team, one was a superhero epic, and one was a single superhero character. That was the Fool. It was the Fool, the Unforgiven, and the New Breed. The Unforgiven was the epic story. It was one great big long heroic tale, literally. So,
right.
And then the New Breed was a superhero team. I patterned that after the Titans. It got really close to being printed with Caliber back when they had a Walmart deal. That would have been in the Walmart stores. I would have loved to have seen that happen. That would have made my career. You know,
right?
Because the book's still solid. It still reads well. It's just it's a little dated.
So I have a question for you.
And
then this is if you could I guess my question is, where do you see comics in the next, we'll say 7 years?
7?
Yeah.
7 years, 10 years, end of the 20s. Hang on just a second. Let's see if this works. I hope you didn't hear any of that.
No, I didn't hear any of it.
That's all good. I still got the crew. Who knows? I'm not sure if the retailers are going to survive unless Diamond gets off of their ass and actually wants to do something, unless Marvel and DC gets off of their ass and wants to do something. I don't know how many retail stores are going to hang on. If you know, tomorrow somebody might announce that they're going to do, well, like the company that Chuck Dixon and Mike Barron announced that they were going to do, that could take off like wildfire. They could literally, I think the retailers could be saved by a couple of really good independent companies that's constantly churning out stuff that everybody wants to read. You know, you get Peter Simeti rolling or whatever. Simeti's out there looking for any other avenue, plus the retailers, plus having to deal with Diamond, plus trying to deal with the newsstand in order to get product out there. And that's what people have to do. They have to go out there and find their way.
Do you
but comics are going to survive.
Well, yeah. I think that's what we need to understand, that comics will survive.
I'm not sure if the conventions will survive with the SJW BS that's going on now. Everybody who you know, gets their panties in a bunch over any little thing, or who knows what. You got to remember, I keep trying to tell the wife this when all the Harvey Weinstein stuff come down. There's a bunch of stodgy old guys out there that are set in their misogynistic ways, just like you run into people, or like our parents or my parents back in, well, not maybe not my parents, but Monica's parents, the wife's parents and all that. They have old thinking. The the social mores are changing faster than a lot of these people want to think. And a lot of people, when you get older, you get set in your ways. So you get these, you get the old guard leaving, the new guard coming in. The problem is, the big problem in comics is that the new guard doesn't know what they're doing. And that's a shame, because, there's a desperate need out there for a dozen more Alan Moores, and, maybe one or two less people that draw like Jim Lee. Somebody out there needs to be drawn like Lee Elias or Frank Robbins. And, we need more people out there that draw like John Byrne and George Perez out there that are doing some awesome kick-ass stylistic stuff, because comics are such an expressive art form that it should be all encompassing and all diversity. And that's just not what we've got, even though we claim that, we've got diverse characters running out there, but everybody looks the same. All the coloring looks muddy as hell. And the products all are overpriced and a lot of it's overworked. And, we need to tell people it's okay if they don't draw like Jim Lee all the time, and to go out there and actually look at Ross Andru and Lee Elias and Jim Aparo and all of these guys that were working back during comics heyday in the Bronze Age, and how individualistic everybody looked. A lot of these guys all look the same to me. And it's not just because I'm old. It's because all these guys all draw the same. I just figured out how to tell Ethan Van Sciver apart from, a lot of the stuff that Jim Lee does. There's a lot of it comes out in the inking, but holy crap, there's so many guys out there who draw like those two people. It's just irritating. And way back when, I could pick up a story and be repulsed by a Frank Thorne, who I thought was using a wide tip felt marker, or Gil Kane, who was using a wide tip felt marker. And now I go back and look at those people and I go, yeah, that artwork's rustic, but damn, they've got their own style, and they've got their own look, and you can see who they are. And they're doing art, even though they're churning stuff out. And look at Kirby's stuff. Kirby was doing 3 books a month, but he was so individualistic and crazy with his imagination that it's just unique stuff. I sit back and look at the stuff back when I was in, high school that I hated. Oh, it's a Kirby cover. This thing sucks. It's horrible. Or, here's Kirby doing another ridiculous book. You go back and you look at it now and you see the imagination and the genius to it that you just don't see in comics anymore, because everybody and their brother wants to look the same and say the same stuff and do the same things. It's just interchangeable character. When's the last unique story you read in a comic book? They used to be every month. Right. That's something that go back and look at Russell Meyer, the Comics Matter thing about the Avengers annual that he critiques Michael Golden. It's a really good example. Very unique, very beautiful stuff. Doesn't draw like anybody else. Draws like Michael Golden. Arthur Adams is like that too. And a lot of these really stylized guys just aren't working up in comics anymore, because especially at Marvel and DC, they're so worried about their page count and their page rates. They're just grabbing, anybody out of whichever distant country that they can find to sit there and do barely serviceable looking stuff.
It's funny that you mentioned Michael Golden. I was
Michael Golden.
Yeah, Golden.
Goldman runs Motor City.
I was at a convention and he was behind me. And in Artist Alley, and I had no idea who he was. Zero idea who he was. And
also a shame, a lot of these kids, especially who want to do comics, have no idea what their history is all about. That's why I'm doing the Zim Geek channel. So yeah. A lot of odd. Anyway, didn't mean to interrupt your story.
No. It's just that I had no idea who he was until like months after the show. I was happened to be going through an older book.
That was that guy.
Yeah, I mean, wait a minute. He was my neighbor. He was behind me, and
it's not like me at the Detroit Con that I'm too geeked out to actually walk up to Kirby and shake his hand, or turn around at the New York show and tell Lee Falk how much I admired his stuff.
I just seen that. Oh gosh, gonna kick myself for forgetting. Matt Fazell just posted a picture of him and Stan Lee from 1984.
Oh yeah,
where he got a chance to meet Stan and shake his hand, and you start thinking about that, like, wow, Stan touched the same people through so many generations.
I did that in '85.
Yeah,
I had to shake his hand. Had set a masterwork sign. I told you that story. George Perez was over there idolizing him. It was a long line. I stood in like 45 minutes at a Chicago con. Mm-hmm. Took him. You could only have him sign 3 things, and back then he signed for free because who thought about charging for an autograph? Or that was before eBay really.
Right.
That was before the net started up, Sonny. Yeah. But anyway, I had went and told Stan that I really enjoyed his stuff. Had him sign the first 3 Masterworks, first volumes, and George Perez was sitting there. I gave Stan copies of the books of the Arrow comics that we had just printed, and gave a set to Perez, and Perez saw Tales from the Anniverse #3, and he sprung out of his chair and just, "You're Randy Zimmerman. You do Tales from the Anniverse. Your stuff is awesome." It's like, no thanks, Mr. Perez.
I wonder if and it's weird because you walk around these cons. I sent you a video a while ago of Mr. Schumer at the Kirby Museum.
Arlen Schumer, yeah.
Did you ever get to watch that video when he?
I don't know if I did or not. Arlen's pretty good though. When he's a bigger historian than I am. Mm-hmm. Quite frankly, he lived a lot more of that stuff than I did. I think he was over in New York when a lot of that stuff was going down. Mm-hmm. I had a tour of the old Marvel bullpen back when I did the New York show. I think that was the same show that Lee Falk was at, and Quesada was just doing stuff over at DC. Their bullpen was a mess at the time. So I've only done New York twice. I did that show way back when. That was probably late 80s, maybe early 90s. Mm-hmm. And then I did it in October of 2011, right after 9/11 happened. Mm. In a basement of a church. Joe Simon was a guest. I should have had him sign something, and I never did. I did say hello to him, though.
You and talking about cons,
but that was to finish that story real fast. That was an interesting time because it was right 1 month after 9/11. It was a whole different New York City. We walked through Times Square. There was nobody there.
Really?
Yeah, nobody wanted to be anywhere because they were afraid the next airplane was going to hit.
I've been
scared to death.
I've been to New York twice, and it was each time it was after 9/11, and it was things that started to get back to normal, whatever that is, and it was But go ahead with your story. Finish it.
There were a few people in Times Square, and they had cops and some firemen go running through the square, and people were applauding. It was a very interesting time.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a digress from what you were going to say. Go ahead.
It was we were talking at the convention. I was at Wizard World Cleveland, like I said, last weekend, and a lot of the vendors were, okay, well, I'll see you in 3 days in Seattle, for Emerald City.
Yeah.
And and then after that, of course, at Emerald City, okay, I'll see you guys next weekend in Kentucky.
Right.
And a lot of them, man, it's way too saturated now with cons. And I'm sure you've seen corporations, large corporations are buying these conventions.
Oh yeah,
they're buying them, taking them over, and how is do you think that's gonna hurt?
Hurt what?
Comics, or at least because I heard someone said this weekend, no one goes to Comic-Con to buy comics.
Yeah, I believe it. There's very few, not to the bigger shows. I don't think. Going dark again.
Okay.
Sorry, man.
No problem.
Anyway, no, it's all cosplayers and goofy people. or looking for art or prints or whatever. But you still get, not at the big shows, especially at the little one-day shows, little relaxed cons, you'll still get people in there to buy comics. It's just, you go to these shows now, you do Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids is lucky if they have a dozen comic book dealers there. They had a big venue. You're lucky. I would imagine at Motor City, there's less and less comic people there every year. You got people selling everything else, swords and cosplay stuff and anime and, you know, anything that they can come up with that's not comics, that's still genre related.
You know, and that's kind of sad. It's kind of sad because I remember going to comic. I mean, you talked about this at great length at Great Lakes Comic Con. We remember a different Comic Con era. Not saying that era was right or, you know, was better than this one.
And it wasn't even. It was around, you know, maybe even a decade ago that this stuff is happening. These cons are evolving, and I'm not sure if they're evolving in a good direction, like what you were saying. But yeah, it was a different time. Hang on again.
I'm wondering if with how things are, you know, with so many cons, and I mean, we've got like at any point around, like Wizard World Chicago used to be a destination show. It was a con that a lot of people, myself included, saved up money to go to. And I'm not sure, you know, that we have shows anymore, except for probably, you know, San Diego is probably still a destination show.
Well, the kids still save up their money to do these shows. It's just that they also spend money on their latest cosplay costume.
And those celebrity pictures. I won't.
And those celebrity pictures, garbage bags full of 20s, baby.
Yeah, I won't say names, but there's a celebrity. I found out today that their guarantee from the convention is $250,000, and this is a little, I guess, inside baseball for people, maybe, you know, people who listen to this. But celebrities at comic conventions get guarantees. If, you know, they make a certain amount of money, if they don't make it, you know, they get the commission. That's the way it works. I think that's pretty much it, right? Your coffee.
What? It's been that way for years. Now, it's just the amount of guarantee hasn't been that high.
Yeah. You know? This is, I won't say the name because this is information I got from a party that's a staff member. So
was it a big star? It better have been a huge star. We're talking like Star Trek original series level.
A huge star. Yeah, I'd say a huge star.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Especially if it's Motor City. Motor City can afford it. This is Wizard World. Huh?
This is Wizard World.
Wizard World, yeah. Well, that's Wizard World. You know. I wouldn't want to do a Wizard World unless they paid me. So they can guarantee me something, but I'll never be that big. So that's the way it works.
That leads into a question. We were talking as artists, and it was like, you know, we need to. Another artist who was there, and he was, you know, cheering everyone on. He's like, hey, everybody, we should get together and like unionize and demand that Wizard, and not just Wizard, but these other cons, you know, give us guarantees. And immediately I thought of ways that will never happen and why that will never happen. But what do you think about that? Do you think that artists and Artist Alley will ever see guarantees like upon sign up? Like, you know, if I don't make this amount of money, I get this amount back.
No. Won't ever happen because there's so many people out there that are unknown that are still trying to do it just for the love of it, you know. Joel, some of your bigger guys, I'm sure Neal Adams gets a guarantee anymore. Some of your bigger comic artist dudes probably have a small guarantee. They don't know what everybody else is getting guaranteed, though, especially the bigger, you know, media stars. They have an idea, but they know they'll never get it. You just go out and try to get what you can out of the convention guys, you know. It's just like they were saying, charging for autographs, and that's just, to me, that charging somebody would be foreign unless I caught somebody up there on eBay trying and actually getting extra money for my signature. Then it might be something different.
What's the most you ever seen some of your stuff online for being sold for?
Not a lot. I've sold some pieces to art collectors that have stunned me because I let them make me an offer, and they have a lot better idea of what artwork is worth.
Mm-hmm.
And so they want to, they don't want to slight me. So they'll come at me with a, you know, I'll pay you $500 or I'll pay you $1,000 for such and such a page because I really want to have it. And I'm like, okay. You twisted my arm. Well, I think I'd agree to that. Not a problem, you know. Well, I had one guy send me his wall. He ended up buying the cover for Spank the Monkey on the Comic Market #1, which was a montage of superhero characters as there's Shock and Spank as different superhero characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I let him set the price because he was a professional art dealer. And he set a price that was, well, probably not quite 10 times more than what I would have taken for it. But it was pretty close. I said, yeah, okay, you know, no problem. And then less than a month or two later, he sent it to me mounted and framed on his wall right next to this Adam Hughes picture and a Dan Barrington painting. And I'm like, okay.
That's cool.
That's fine by me. Thank you. You know, you can't, being an artist is such a subjective thing because what you think stuff's worth to yourself isn't necessarily what it's worth to the guy who wants to pay you for it, or the girl who wants, or the person who wants to pay you for it.
Right.
You know, so I try to let them set prices as much as possible. So that usually ends up being a lot higher. How much you want for this? How much you want to give me? Yeah. We'll see how it goes. And that's usually, but the smart asses, it's usually responded with, well, you can give it to me for free.
I think Google's having a problem. A lot of my invites have not sent. No one's seeing them. So maybe we'll find out tomorrow that Google had a massive crash or something.
Maybe they're hedging your algorithms, just like Facebook anymore. These crazy kids, they don't want anybody to succeed. That's the way that works.
Now, Randy, what do you think about trying to get together?
Yeah, because nobody has seen my post either in Facebook. I'm looking right now.
What do you think about trying to get together? Maybe trying to make it a good night for everybody. I mean, Friday's full of a lot of cast, but you can always get online like it.
Yeah, nobody's even seen it on my live now on the YouTubes. Indie Volts, Varian Grant, join us if you dare. Nobody has even acknowledged that they saw it. Let me try to use the link. Yeah, the link tells me you stumbled upon some vintage web tech. This website runs on older. That's because I'm looking at it in my other and in the other internet thing. Hang on, I gotta cough up a lung again.
Okay. Yeah, he's has his coughing fit.
Sorry, hopefully soon I will be better. I got hit with this Sunday night. I woke up not being able to breathe, laying in bed. Last night was pretty rough, so I've been catnapping most of the day. I'm making me feel old. I'm lucky if I can get an hour of sleep at a time, and I wake up coughing my ass off. Yeah, and I don't even smoke.
No cigars, no nothing, huh?
Luckily, I got the lemonade. No, can't stand cigar. And sadly, the taste and the smell and the smoke of marijuana just I just can't put up with it anymore. You know, I used to be able to. I had my time, Sonny. I've sown my seeds. You know, there were times in the 80s when we did a lot of drugs, but I don't think it's affected us at all. You know, we're going to be like Keith Richards. I'm living to be 110. Mainly because I drink every once in a while and I'm not afraid to go out and look at titties. Can we say titties on this program? I think we can. Anyway.
It should be able to get away with that. Let me see here.
That's one of these days, you know, I'd like to do a Spank the Monkey top 10 tips for cartoonists. You know, because one of them will be, and that's just because there's nobody that's going to probably hear this, is, you want to learn how to draw female anatomy, kiddies? Well, go find a strip club.
You know what's funny is that
because you're never going to find the female form in better form than a really good strip club. You get some girl who's got a really good dance routine and it's got it down. You take a little sketch pad in there and you just start drawing. You'll figure out where all the muscles and where the curves are supposed to be. You know, it's that simple.
You know, I remember for me it was getting a hold of those. It sounds perverted, but getting a hold of those Victoria's Secret catalogs. Would go through those and I would, you know, see what was in them and.
Not real women, son. Not real women. So that's objectifying women into an unusual high level or high standard. That's what it is. You know? They're not my shape anyway. Victoria's Secret's women are too skinny for me. So luckily, I've got a couple of guys on my Facebook page that seem to know exactly what kind of women I like. They keep sending me videos all the time. So it's like, yeah, thanks for that one. That's nice. Okay. So I don't send it around. I'm not much of a porn hound anymore, but there were days, you know, weeks, months. I used to sell that stuff. So
that's like you said, you used to work in an adult store. Yeah.
Yeah. You get used to all of that kind of stuff. I was selling porn back when videotapes. Sonny, I was selling porn back when videotapes used to be $125. And I sold them too, and people liked it.
Have you ever had a situation where someone asked you to draw something pornographic at all that you had to turn down?
I don't turn it down if the price is right. If they can't meet my price, well, that's not my problem. But I do charge extra for that kind of thing, and I don't do it on a regular basis anymore. Now that I started Flint Comics, because I'd have to know somebody. I got a guy that still comes around at the shows every once in a while that wants some crazy stuff that I'll do, but he's calmed down even too. I haven't drawn anything. I'm just thinking I haven't drawn anything too salacious at a show in quite a while. So, but I have there's a couple of guys out there that still are in love with Mischievous. That's the black cat from Tales from the Aniverse that keeps coming around asking me to do stuff.
I know an artist that he's been asked to do some. He draws for he does a lot of, you know, erotic art, but nothing. But he's always asked to do stuff, and it gets wackier and wackier each time. From draw this girl with this dragon,
yep,
to draw this girl with this tentacle monster, or as far as this convention, draw this girl with this vegetable. And
you mean doing something very adult with this vegetable?
Yeah.
That's you still have your crazies out there, you know. And I shouldn't say that that's crazy, because these people are paying artists to feed their families and stuff, to draw something unusual for them. But back in the 80s, in the late 80s, there was a lot of that. Back when Phil Foglio was running, and pardon me, wow, that back when comics were actually a little more diverse. You know, there used to be a lot of that crazy stuff. I've drawn, if you know who Martha Quinn is, I've drawn Martha Quinn nude as a mouse sitting on a thimble or a spool of thread before at a show.
See, when you say Martha Quinn, I for some reason think of the medicine woman.
No, that's Dr. Quinn. Martha Quinn used to be a VJ back in the 80s. She was the young brunette-looking girl.
Ah.
So, you know, everybody's got there used to be, and again, this is how these cons have evolved. Forgive me for standing up here for a second. I will do this just so the camera doesn't catch something unusual while I pull up my pants. Anyway, readjust. These shows used to be nobody needs to see that. These shows used to be so different because they were so misogynistic and so blatantly misogynistic that you know, you'd get the girl in the original Vampirella outfit there, and she'd have a line of 30, 40 people standing there and drooling because they're not sure if that costume is stuck on her or not, but they really want to find out, you know. And that there was a whole adultness to it that was accepted because you saw very few kids, you saw very few women, you know, you never saw a full family there, and that situation has definitely evolved and changed over the years. You know, now it's you yearn for the days of an old style adult con, just to see that kind of stuff again. But you know, you'll never see that kind of stuff again. Back in the 70s and early to mid